Hey guys, my name is Dominic Flex. I'm a custom jewelry designer. Today I'm joined by Benedict, and we're going to be going over emeralds. It's a much requested video, and we're going to be going over everything you need to know as a client on how to buy an emerald. You know, from the basics of qualities to prices, different treatments, synthetics, and at the very end, we're going to be doing eye candy. So that's where we're going to keep all the biggest pieces, the nicest pieces, so you can wash your eyes with some very nice things. So let's start with the basics. What is an emerald?
So emeralds are part of the Beryl family. So it's a big family. It's got many stones of different colors. The most popular or known one would be the emerald. It's part of the 4 C's. So it's a precious stone with diamond, ruby, sapphire, and emerald. The second most popular, I would say, are aquamarines, which is the light blue version of Beryl. And then you also have morganite that was quite popular and still popular in the last few years with like a soft, peachy, light pink color. There's also the yellow beryl that is called heliodor. You can have more like different saturation of yellows, but they are yellow. And then there's the green beryl. Usually green beryl will be light green to slightly bluish green. There's no like exact definition of what a green beryl is. So these are all, they all have the same chemical composition. They will be colored by trace elements. So the elements that color them are not part of their chemical composition. They just happened to be there when the crystal was forming.
So you can really see the variations of the minerals. Like this aquamarine that she has is so nice. It's slightly more green. This one's slightly more blue. Like same with the morganites. One is slightly more orange, more pink. So very cool.
And even within emerald, we're going to talk about it later, but some are lighter, some are darker. It has to do with the concentration of that trace element when it grows. So the emerald is colored by the trace element. It would be chrome and vanadium or vanadium.
Yeah. Vanadium.
Vanadium. And then aquamarine will be colored by iron. Morganite is going to be colored by manganese. And heliodor will also be colored by iron. And then there's the green beryl, which is, so there's no exact definition. Sometimes when the aquamarine, like the pear shape, has some green in it, so typically they will heat treat the aquamarine to remove that green and have more of a pure light blue. So when the aquamarine is too green, they will call it a green beryl because it's when it's colored by iron. And then some emeralds that are going to be very, very light, like these Colombian emeralds.
It's almost like a pastel.
It's almost
very nice.
So some people will call this emerald, some people will call it green beryl. Since these are from Colombia and they still have like this glow to them, like if we put these, like you can see these ones are different.
Well, an emerald, I think, I mean, what's desired is a more blue, and this is definitely more blue, and this is more yellow.
Yeah. So we're going to call these emeralds. Some people could call them green beryls. There's no exact definition. So that's for the family of beryls. And then there's also a type of emerald that comes only from Colombia that's called trapiche. And so it's got this kind of star pattern in it because of the inclusion and the way it grows. And that's only found in Colombia. They're usually very like grayish. It's rare to see them with that rich emerald green color. Usually they're kind of washed out colors, but
this is kind of like almost like a collector's piece.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of one of those funky stones that are less common, but if you love it, it's really nice.
Yeah. If you know what it is and you're looking for one, this is going to be like the top quality of that kind of stone.
All right, so now that we've covered the Beryl family, let's go into the qualities. And I feel like we should maybe start with color, because I think this is a very grand, this is one of the qualities that's going to really affect the price the most, I think. Yeah.
So the color and the clarity it's for like a stone of equal size or measurement or weight. It's what's going to affect the price the most. And then it's what people are willing to compromise. Some people want the very clean stone, but they have like a tighter budget, so they will go with like a lighter stone.
Okay.
And some people just want that emerald color, and they will go for a more included. Or some people, they want top color, top clarity, and maybe they're just going to go for a slightly smaller stone too. That's going to fit the budget.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like ultimately that's something that like once we go over the 4Cs, we're gonna give very clear videos, but that's something that you can decide what's more important to you. And then when you reach out, you just give, this is what I want, clarity over color, and we work it out for you.
Yeah. So first would be color. So also we can talk about price difference, but here we have two emerald cuts. They're both 6x4 millimeter. The lighter one is no oil. It's quite clean, but it's a light stone. So this one goes for just under $400 for a 55 pointer, so 0.55 carat. This one's exactly the same weight, and it's $1,000.
Yeah.
So it's more than the double. And as you can see, the darker one is more included than the lighter one. But just because of the color, that very desirable saturated green, like emerald green color. So this one's going to be more expensive. And then we also have some little rounds here.
Where this would be too dark.
This is a little too dark. So these go for $275, and these one are $450. And they're not only too dark, but they're also more included. So we can see like how more lively the more expensive
because
ones
basically like I feel like what's happening right now is the fact that it's lighter, like more light is coming through, it just hits those facets, it's making it pop, versus the dark one looks almost dull because there's no light going through, you know.
So me personally, I would go for a cleaner stone that is a bit lighter, because I like the sparkle. I like when the stones have life. Otherwise I think
it looks a bit dull.
I
understand.
A bit dull. And then clarity. So emerald, so we talked about the Beryl family. These are all, so the hardness would be 7.5. That's the resistance to scratch. And then there's the tenacity. So that's more with like mechanic pressure. So when you set it, when you bang it. Emeralds, they are more included than any other beryls. They're more included than a lot of gemstones. They're known for that. We actually call their inclusions
jardin.
Jardin. Like also it's like a garden of inclusions. It's a pretty word for something that we don't want so much, but it is what it is. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Still very popular, still quite durable.
But I think it really, like, for example, when we're talking about like hardness, usually referring more to like scratches, but if I were to hit it hard enough on the table, it could crack open. And that's more the danger of an emerald.
So like emeralds are fine for rings, not a problem. Engagement ring, like if you're gonna wear your ring every single day and never take it off, or if you have a very active lifestyle and you like to just, or if you're just very clumsy, it's just things you have to take into consideration. But like if you work in an office and you know, you can wear an emerald, that's not a problem. So here I have some examples. I have two parcels of ovals. They're pretty much the same shade. These one are maybe one shade under, but they're a lot brighter, so they might look lighter. But if we look at it like on this side, it's pretty much, it's very close color. So we'll start with the less expensive ones, the more included. So $570 each, around that price. And these one go for $1,100.
Yeah.
So it's like the double for not a big difference in color, but the cleaner one. Yeah. And you have to think about that also over time, you know, because the stone might not look so included, but it's always like emeralds, it's always going to have inclusion. You always have to be careful. But if you see that the stone kind of lacks life, you kind of know that it's more included, and therefore it's going to be more fragile.
Yeah. Another thing with clarity is also this, you can have milkiness as well, which is when the stone's going to look very opaque.
I can show you that this pair, this is a 10 carat pair, so quite big, and they have a great color, but they're quite included. So they're more kind of milky. They have less sparkle, even if emerald doesn't have what we call like fire, but it's got a nice luster and it should kind of sparkle. So these ones, they're good because they're big and they
Yeah.
would make like amazing earrings, but they're not so lively. So this pair is 10,600 for both. And this one, which is great color,
Yeah.
more clean, a lot more clean. This is a 2.5 carat. So this one was 10 carat, 2.5 carat. They're the same price.
Yeah.
So that's what I say when like, what are you willing to compromise? These are for earrings, obviously, because
Yeah.
it's a pair. I wouldn't put that on a ring because
It's a little
bit,
much.
It's a little bit big.
And we like symmetry, team symmetry.
But for earrings, it's fine. You
Yeah.
know, it has to survive the setting process.
Yeah.
Once it's set, there's no like, just don't drop them. But so sometimes when we're gonna have more included stones, we're gonna make pendants or earrings, and this one for a ring would be like a great size, a great clarity and all of that.
Yeah.
That's for the color clarity. The size. So we talked about the size. The size will jump a lot. So that's why when we say, what are you willing to compromise on? Do you want a tiny stone that's going to be the best color, the best clarity? Or are you willing to compromise and have a slightly lighter color, but a bigger stone? Because in emeralds, in some gemstones, not all gemstones, like topaz, you can find big crystals, amethyst, the price per carat will kind of, the weight will change, so it's going to be more expensive, but the price per carat will kind of stay in the same price range.
Yeah.
And emerald, it's like when we talk about alexandrite or sapphires, like a 1 carat, let's say 1 carat emerald, $1,000 per carat. A 2 carat emerald, it's going to be maybe $5,000 per carat.
Yeah,
so
the prices.
It's like, and then you multiply by more weight, so it can change a lot.
Yeah, it can escalate quickly because ultimately, you know, let's say if you're trying to find a good clarity at a 1 carat stone, which is this big, or a 3 carat, you need this much more material of high quality. So rare to find. The price is just like gross.
And like also they're the most expensive of the Beryl family because aquamarine, morganite, heliodor, it's quite easy to find larger crystals, so you'll see bigger stones on the market. Emeralds usually they're smaller crystal, or they will be like too much inclusion. The ones that are cut, they're cut, they're fine, but when you have them rough, you kind of have to go with the rough and say, okay, this is a big rough, but I cannot cut 1 stone out of it. Maybe I'll have to cut it in 4 and make 4 smaller stones that are going to be cleaner or more durable.
Anything like that has corners, like these ones, or you know, now we have some marquees, we have some pear cuts, anything with points, you know, I really recommend that you just either set it in a bezel, set it low, try to come up with a situation or design that's really going to protect the stone ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important, because we still sell a lot of pear shape of marquees. I think it's the jewelers that has to kind of work with what they have and what the client wants, and then if they absolutely want a marquise, they will, that's it, kind of put more metal around it.
Yeah.
They won't put little prawns and let that little point
in the wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, super important.
Important.
I was also curious because a lot of the times the actual crystal, like the raw, is kind of almost kind of it's elongated, right? So is that one of the reasons why we see more elongated shapes as well?
Yeah, we will see. It's like tourmaline. It's like a lot of gemstones when the crystal grows. They're like long crystals. So ideally, you find a crystal, you don't want to cut it in pieces. You want to keep it as is.
Now that we've touched on the 4 Cs, I'd really like to go into the origin, because there's a lot of talk of like Brazilian, there's a lot of talk about like Colombian, you know, everybody's like, oh, Colombian emerald, why is that?
So I think it's like every gemstones, there's legends, there's the history. Colombian emeralds, they're just kind of part of their history, everyone knows about it. But it's like any gemstones. You can have horrible Colombian emerald and beautiful Zambian or Ethiopian emerald. It depends. The Colombian emeralds also come with quite hefty premium to them.
Okay,
so
if it is a higher quality stone and it's from Colombia, you get that premium?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Even if it's not that nice, just the fact that it comes from Colombia, because people know about it, because of the history, because there's requests for it, they will be a lot more expensive than, let's say, a Brazilian stone.
Yeah.
Some people will say that they have more blue undertone in the Colombian emeralds. Probably true for some stones, not true for any stone that comes out of Colombia. So this, you have to kind of see what you want. You want, like, you'll have the origin no matter what. It's not like sapphires that kind of get sold and exchanged in markets like that. So usually we have the origin, but then there's beautiful, like there's a lot of also kind of not new deposits, but like in Africa there's like Zambian emeralds, Ethiopian emeralds. They're absolutely gorgeous, I think. We also work a lot with Brazilian emeralds.
Yeah, I think a lot of yours are Brazilian, and they're also ethically sourced. You've been to the mines, I think. Yeah.
So I haven't been, but my mother went. I think there might be a few pictures around here of that mine. But yeah, but we know the owners very well. You can read about them on GIA. It's the Belmont mine, and so they kind of found this deposit on the family farm.
Oh, wow. That's a good find.
So it is a good find. And then they really kind of developed the mine, and but now it's, I think, the grandson or the grandson, I'm not exactly sure. But you know, they still live on that land.
Yeah.
They're kind of my generation, so they're careful about that, the environment. They reforest everything. They have a tree nursery. They replant the native trees or native plants. They will check if what animal come back. They're very good with that. So we know them, and it's also good when you have like this kind of relationship, because we can talk freely and ask whatever questions we have. But then, since it's like it's a big mine, but when you kind of limit yourself at one mine, you limit yourself at what they can produce. Yeah. So sometimes we kind of have to source, let's say, 7x5 emerald cuts. They will have 10 for us, but maybe we will need more. So sometimes we kind of have to source elsewhere, but know that it's not because it's Colombian that it's better than another.
Yeah, I think you have to evaluate stone by stone always.
Yeah.
So let's go into the treatments, because they do have some treatments, you know, oiling. So I think that's a big question for a lot of people.
Typically, they're only oiled. You don't really heat emeralds.
Because they're too fragile?
They're quite sensitive to heat. Avoid heating your emeralds. So they will be oiled. The reason why they oil, well, the process is that they will take the stone, usually the rough stones or crystals, and they will vacuum seal them in cedar wood oil. And the reason is because they could use any oil. They could use like any type of oil, but the cedar oil has a very similar refractive index as the emerald.
And so, that's so interesting.
Yeah. Wow, and so I don't know if you've ever seen that experiment or if you want to try it at home, but if you have a glass of water and you make an ice cube that doesn't have any bubbles, like a beautiful pure ice cube, and you put it in the water, it's going to disappear. Yeah. If it's got bubble, you're just going to see the bubble, but you won't see the shape of the ice cube, because water and ice, they have the same refraction index. Refraction index, it's going to be the difference of the speed of light when it goes from one material to another. So like let's say from the air to the emerald. So we can, that's one of the main way we identify gemstones, because they kind of have different, it has to do with the density, the composition, but they will kind of slow light at different speed. So since the cedar wood oil has a very similar refractive index as the emerald, it will make all the little inclusions or that are mostly fractures, they will disappear. So you won't see them.
Very good.
It doesn't mean they're not there.
Yeah. But that's why they say, like, that's why it goes down to like light, medium, and heavy oil.
Yeah.
Basically, right? Okay.
Yeah. So you have the no oil, which is very simple. There's no fracture, so there's no way the oil can get in. So that's no oil. And then you can have minor oil to like heavily oiled, and this we will kind of see with the microscope. You don't see necessarily the inclusion with the naked eye, but when you pull the microscope, you can see the fractures, and sometimes you can see some like oil deposit. So we can identify that. The labs can also do some more tests with bigger tools and get like very precise on the level of oiling. But generally, like a good quality stone, it's going to be minor to moderate oiling. That's totally normal.
I think one way to see is if you put your if you put your stone in a little baggie and you suck the air out, you will see the oil start to come out.
Yeah.
So if it's very oiled, you'll see it like in the next day.
But then if you do that, then you remove the oil and your emerald can kind of.
I had a gemologist tell me that. Oh, I don't know.
I would probably not
recommend. Okay.
Recommend.
We don't recommend
unless you're willing to take the risk. Because the other thing is, a lot of people say, "Well, how can I re-oil my stone?" So normally, a good quality stone will not have to be re-oiled anytime in their lifetime. But yeah, you don't need to oil it. What you have to remember also is that if you think that your emerald needs to be re-oiled, you need to bring it to a jeweler, because they have to remove the stone from the jewelry, and then there's a big risk when you do that. Because
unsetting, resetting something that's a little bit on the brittle side, especially depending on how included it is, like it's risky. Yeah, for sure.
And you don't even know if it's going to change something, because maybe you think it looks included, but maybe it's already oiled. So that's just for oiling.
Yeah.
So there's no oil. There's oiled to very minor to moderate to heavily oiled, and then.
And that will affect the prices, sorry.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, okay.
It will affect the price.
Ultimately, yeah, because if you have a heavily oiled, then it's a good sign that there's a lot of fractures, and that's why they're filling it with that much oil, so.
Yeah. And then some people will put colored oil. Okay. So that's like, to me, the no oil, heavily oiled, if it's disclosed, it's fine. The colored oiled, even if it's disclosed, it should always be disclosed, no matter the treatment. Every treatment should be disclosed. I would recommend not to go there with the colored, because it's like they're dyeing a stone. And then there's also people who will use like resin filler. The oil is fun because that's it. It's not like permanent. You still have your emerald. I feel like when they put resin, it's because they kind of want to keep it together, which is not ideal.
No bueno. No, that's not good. I mean, as soon as you just hear resin filling, you're just like, oh. Yeah, this sounds bad. This sounds not good.
But some people are on a budget. I think as long as you know what you're buying, there's no problem. But
so then the next thing would be, well, there's synthetics, there's imitations.
Yeah. So also there's synthetics, there's imitation, synthetic emeralds. Like for any synthetic gemstones, it's the same. It's just created in a lab. There's different ways to make the emerald. They will usually be a lot more clean and have great color because they're made in a lab. So they will not make like a bad quality emerald, or they will just leave them if it's got some weird inclusion. They will cut the rest of the rough into nice stones. With a microscope, usually a gemologist can tell both apart. They have distinctive inclusions. So the inclusions is also something very interesting about emeralds, because so we talked about the fracture, but there's also sometimes like 3-phase inclusions, 2-phase inclusions. Some inclusions will be from like some specific origins. Sometimes you'll find like one from elsewhere that has this inclusion, but maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people would kind of base on the inclusions to say where it's from. but also to identify synthetics and natural. Because if we do a refractive index, it's going to be more or less the same. It's going to give emerald.
Yeah, I thought that was always super cool that you could kind of find the origins of most emeralds from the formation. So cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's also something that's called emerald soudé or soudé emerald. So it will be kind of a triplet. If we take this stone, for example, so the pavilion will be a material, colorless usually. And then right on the girdle, it will be just like a fine line of green, of emerald green.
Yeah.
It could be glass, it could be resin. They found that resin kind of changed color over time. So now it's most probably going to be like a fine layer of glass. And then on top, they will often put a very light beryl, because we talked about the beryl. There's also a colorless beryl that we call goshenite. So then it kind of fools us, because if we do our eye, it will test like, oh, it's an emerald. And when you see it, you really don't see that it's colorless.
Yeah.
It does this like optical illusion that it kind of colors the whole stone. A good way to quickly see if that's the case, if you put it in water, some kind of like immersion liquid, and you will see straight away the line. Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
I'll see. I'll see if I can find a cheap one online, and I'll try the experiment.
And I think, I'm not sure this is I haven't seen them since gemology school, but if you don't put it in water and you look at it, the stone will look green and the line will look colorless. So it kind of like...
It inverses.
Inverses.
So cool.
So when you put it in water, you see the actual thing. And then there's other green stones that might look like emerald.
Yeah.
There's the chrome diopside that's very green. I have some, but they're capped, but they're very similar. They're like a bright green. But none of them will show you, none of them has this very emerald green color. There's tourmalines, usually more that shade. It's got a little more blue. And then there's chrome tourmaline. So colored by chrome, like the emerald. And they're very like, they've got more yellow.
You can just tell the difference just by
the sapphire garnet.
Yay! I love sapphire. Yeah.
They're beautiful. They used to teach them as like emerald imitation, but they're also quite expensive. So I would kind of brag that it's sapphire and not say that it's emerald.
That's funny because like we talked about sapphire in a garnet video that we did, and you can still get very high price points.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're looking for something that isn't included with a saturated green, maybe sapphirite's the better option for you, because if you found the same color or similar color without inclusions, it's significantly higher in emerald.
And garnets, they have a great luster. People when they think of garnet, they just see this like dark red grandmother's jewelry or beads or whatever. But no, garnets are lovely. We love them.
Yeah. Can we have some eye candy, please?
Yes, we can.
Yay! This is like literally my favorite part. Is when she takes out the eye candy.
So we got this one. I also showed. I also showed this one when I compared with the pair. This one is Brazilian. It's 9,500, 2.5 carat. This one is 3.4 carat. It's $17,000, and it's from Zambia.
May I see? Yeah, you see that the clarity is just so much nicer than the one from Zambia.
That's it. And sometimes, it doesn't matter the origin, because you can find very included stuff in the nicest origin.
Very nice.
Have these rounds. So 2.21 carat, 2.90 carat, also from Zambia. They have an amazing clarity, and you'll see in the close-up, they're still included. When we say it's got a good clarity, it doesn't mean it's clean. That's not gonna happen with emeralds, except if you go with like smaller, like this round, or this one that has no oil, simply because there's no inclusions to get the oil in.
Yeah, these are beautiful. I mean, like personally, I still prefer an emerald cut.
Yeah.
And for this gemstone, I do prefer an emerald cut, but if you do want a round stone, very nice.
Yeah, they're very nice. And so yeah, the price-wise, we're still in the $10,000 budget range. This is 9,500. This is 11,300.
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's still very nice though. Like
Yeah.
when you're thinking about, it's a 2.89 carat, so 2.9 carats. I mean, if it was a diamond, it'd be a lot more. So
Oh yeah.
it's still
So
very
that's the
good,
cool
very
thing
good.
about colored
Yeah.
gemstones too. It's like the bigger you go, if you go above 3 carats for most gemstones, it's going to be expensive, but it has nothing to do with like a 3-carat diamond.
Yeah, no, you're hitting the 100,000s. It's crazy.
Yeah. I also have this one, which is kind of comparable to this, I would say, better color. It's a big stone, and this is also in the $12,000 range because it's 3.7 carats. So
And slightly milky.
yeah, it's slightly milky, but it's still got, like, you can see
It has a nice cut. Yeah, it
nice
has a
nice cut
yeah.
and some brilliance, you know, as these ones. Well, you can see it when you move it, but I feel like the color in this one is richer, and it's big, you know. Maybe if it was clean, it would be like $50,000 or a lot more than that.
All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's always a pleasure doing them. And if you have any questions, comments, just leave them down below. We'll try to answer them for you.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if ever you're looking for a custom engagement ring, send me a DM. Links are down below. My name is Dominique Flux. Thank you again, Benedict.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.